Thank you for joining us as we are going live. And today we're going to be talking about how to grow your business and win more government contracts by building a board of advisors. So if you are joining us, thank you for joining us. We are recording this here. So if you are joining us live, thank you for joining us live. And if you're joining us on replay, so glad to have you watch this on replay as well. My name is Abraham Seong, and I am your podcast host here. And so we're going to be talking about today sometime a super overlooked strategy in terms of how to grow and scale your business by building a board of advisors. So we're going to be covering a few different topics today here. Let me kind of share a few things that we're going to be covering. Why you need a board of advisor. We're going to be covering that. How can a board advisor help you win more contracts? And then we're talking about what are the key benefits of having a board of advisors. What's the difference between a board of advisor versus a board of director? What are some characteristics to look for in a board member? And then we'll look at how do you leverage board members to help you raise more capital for your company, and how to incentivize a board member to volunteer time for your business. And then should you compensate your board members? And we'll talk about some of those concepts there, and how to offer equity to your board members, how to create a brand and a message to attract the right board members, and how to ask someone on your board how to ask someone to consider to be on your board, and many other different things we'll talk about today here. So that's going to be what we're going to be covering. So if you're joining us, glad that you're joining us. Now, I promise you that I have given out this recommendation and this suggestions to hundreds, if not thousands of companies, because over the last 15 years training over 15,000 companies, I've been giving out this advice, and very few business owners put this in place, to their mistake, because building a board of advisor is a powerful strategy, a powerful technique that only a few people ever really do. And for those that do it and they use this here to their advantage, it allows them to grow. Now, some of you might be thinking, well, I'm just a new startup, or I'm just a small business. Why do I need a board of advisors? And so there may be some confusion, right? Any organization can have a board. Doesn't matter if you're brand new or if you've been around for 20, 30 years. Doesn't matter if you have zero revenue. Doesn't matter if you have millions in revenue. You need a board of advisor. If you do this right here, you can scale and grow your company, especially if you're interested in the government market. You can grow your commercial side of it. You can grow your government contracting side of your business. So this is a very powerful and very strategic technique. And so I'm glad you're here. But to dive in, let's talk about this a little bit. If you're joining us, let me know. If you're joining us live, give us your company name in the chat and put in there where you're joining us from. That gives me a little bit perspective of who's with us here today. So your company name and where you're joining us from, your location, what city you're in. That would be awesome. Well, lots of stuff to talk about now. And I do have a board. In terms of, I run two organizations right now. I do have two boards, one for each company. So let's talk about why you need a board of advisors. But to answer that question, I'm going to address another question first, and we'll come back and talk about why you need a board of advisor. Now, if you have a LLC and you have a S corp or C corp, there is a difference between the two. So in a LLC, you have member directors, or you have managing members. It depends on the terminology you use based upon your operating agreement. Now, if you have an S corp or C corp, you have board of directors. So what I'm talking about here is not a managing members or not member directors. And not board of directors. I'm talking about a board of advisor. So what's the difference? And I'm not gonna, just in terms of not creating a confusion. when I talk about board of directors, I'm also including member directors and managing members for LLCs. So for convenience, I'll call board of directors the same thing as managing directors and managing members and so forth. The board of advisor is different from a board of directors. So here's the difference. A board of director directs the company. They have a fiduciary responsibility to the shareholders, to the company itself. Now, if you're a small business, you are the only shareholder and you have a board of directors. Now, you in a small business, you might be the only board member as a part of the board of directors. You are the chairman of the board, you're the secretary, and you're the treasurer. You run all three hats in a small organization. I'm not talking about a board of directors, because the board of directors, they have additional responsibility. Now, if you do build a board of directors in a small business, keep this in mind. They can fire you from your own company. They can fire you from your own company. So you don't want a board of directors when you're a small business. But a board of advisor, yes, you do want that. So what is a board of advisor? Why is that different from a board of directors? The number one difference is this here. Your board of advisors, they give advice. They do not have a fiduciary responsibility for the obligations to the shareholders. They just give advice. So that's the number one reason, or the biggest difference between a board of advisor and a board of directors. If you're LLC, if you are C Corp, S Corp, you need a board of advisors. So let's talk about the different tiers of management in terms of an organization, and then we'll come back and talk about why and the benefits and so forth. So let me come in here and let me share my screen here. And so we're going to dive in and we're going to talk about a few key factors here. And so let me zoom in my screen here. And then we're going to dive in here and we're going to talk about some key elements here. So share my screen. All right, so I see a few new faces here joining us. So thank you for joining us live here. And if you're watching this on replay, thank you for joining us. So I'm going to talk about the who is really in control of an organization, and those are the shareholders. Now, in an LLC, they don't call it shares, right? They call it units. And so in an LLC, you have units, and then within a units, you have members, right? In a C Corp, S Corp, you have shares and you have shareholders. So this here, they are the ultimate key people that controls the company. They can vote. They can vote, anyone out and so forth. So shareholder has the highest, not necessarily responsibility, but they have the highest voting power. So underneath the shareholders itself, then you have the board of directors. And what I'm talking about here is a board of advisors that have no fiduciary responsibility. And then underneath the board of directors, then you have the executive leaders, right? You have the executive leaders. And within the executive leaders, you have the CEO, you have the COO, you have the CFO, and you have all the whatever, right? The C-level executives. And then from that responsibility goes down to your VPs. And then after that, it goes into your managers. And then after your managers, you have your employees and so forth. So these are the layers of management in an organization. What we're talking about today is we're not talking about shareholders or board of directors or executives or any of these things here. What we're talking about is a board of advisors and why you should form a board of advisors. So the shareholders can vote out a board of director. The shareholders can vote out, and the board of directors can vote out executives and CEOs, and so this is the tier layer of management in a traditional organization. What I want to focus is the board of advisor and why this is just as important in your structure, in structuring your management and your team and the people in your organization. Because if you do this here right, the board of advisor will help you to grow your company. And so with that said, let's talk about why you need this here. So I'm going to stop sharing my screen for a second here and come back and talk about, so why do you need a board of advisors? And put up my notes here. So why do you need a board of advisors? One of the main reasons is that your board of advisors can give you advice on many, many different things. So let's talk about what kind of advice do you need. For example, you might need a relationship to a potential new client that you've been trying to reach out to. And your board of advisor they have connections. They can quickly introduce you to someone. You might need access to money, and your board of advisors, they know people with money. You might, your board of advisor can open doors where you don't have the ability to open doors. So let me give you a very specific, practical, real scenario of how an advisor was able to open doors for one of the companies I was coaching. So, young lady, she's young, and so she doesn't have a lot of experience, a lot of relationships, but she's running a company. So we talked about building a team around her. So I introduced her to someone at the CID, the airport CID. So the airport CID, CID stands for Community Improvement District. So I introduced someone that I knew over there to her. I said, she has a product that you can spray on concrete, and it will restore the strength of the concrete for another 10 to 15 years. So because concrete deteriorates over time. And so she has a product that if you spray onto any concrete, whether it's the tarmac or whether it is, roads and bridges concrete, or it could be building concrete on a building. If you spray this compound to it, it goes into the concrete and it restores the strength of it. And it's been tested and all these different things here. So she wanted to connect with, she wanted to potentially sell this product to the airport. So I connected someone over there. And so that person said, well, you need to go and meet this person. And so she met with this person. So this is a person that worked for the Atlanta airport for like 35 years. And she recently retired. And so a friend of mine introduced this company I'm coaching to this recent retiree from the airport. 35 years at the airport, guess what? She knows everybody there. And she met with this person. This person said, yeah, I would be open to being an advisor to your company. And so she became an advisor to her company. And so this is the power of it. The advisor picks up the phone, calls up the sitting director of the airport and say, hey, I have a friend. I want you to meet with her. Done. Meeting set up. She picks up the phone. She calls the Tampa, Florida airport. She said, hey, I have a friend. She's going to be coming down to Tampa, and I want you to listen to her and learn about her product. Done. So that's really the power of a board of advisor, right? So this is why you need a board of advisor. They can open doors to 35 years of relationship building can be yours, but just asking someone to be on your board of advisor. You don't need to go build 35 years of relationship, because if your board member has 35 years of relationships, that's your relationship as well. So that's one of the key reasons why you need a board of advisor, access to different things, right? So let's talk about, let's continue here. What are the 4 characteristics that you should look for in a board of advisor or in a member to join your board of advisor. And then later I'm going to talk about how do you get them to consider joining your board. So I'm going to come back here to my notes here, and then I'm going to talk about it and also type it out as we're talking about it so that you can kind of visually see as I'm sharing as well. So let me go back and share my screen. So let's talk about the characteristics. What are the 4 characteristics that you should look for in someone so that you can consider them being on your board of advisors? So the 4 key characteristics of a board member. So number 1 is this here. And we talked about earlier. But number 1 is relationships. In the example I use, someone who retired from the Atlanta Hartsfield Airport, they've been there 35 years. They've got relationship with the employees, the directors, the program heads. They have relationship with all the airports, not airports, but all the airline companies there, with vendors, with companies there. They have lots and lots of relationship. They have relationship with other airports as well. And so what you're looking for is someone who has a deep, strong, and rich number of relationships. This will save you time. This will save you a lot of pains and a lot of marketing and cold emails to try to open up relationships. If you have someone that have relationship, guess what? Their relationship, an advisor that have relationships, their relationship is just a natural extension of your relationship. So you go from what we call 6 degrees of separation to 1 degree or 2 degrees of separation. So in the example I use, I connected her to somebody, they connected to her. And then through that, it became just one connection, one relationship between her and the Tampa Bay airport. So instead of layers and layers of trying to go from a cold relationship to a warm relationship, one phone call, doors open. So you want to find someone that have a lot of relationships in the field that you are in, or in the marketplace that you feel that a advisor can open doors for you. Now, I'm saying it that as if you're using your advisor to open doors. Your advisor is there to give you advice, and we'll talk about how to get help from your advisors in a second. But let's finish talking about the 4 characteristics that you want to look for in a advisory board member. The second is someone who have expertise or knowledge. And for example, some of you are a horrible proposal writer. Well, you need someone who's a great writer. So some of you, when it comes to financials and accounting principles and accounting standards, you're like, man, I am good at my niche, but I'm horrible at the finances or the accounting side of things. So you need someone that will complement, right? They will bring in knowledge and expertise in other areas that you don't have knowledge and expertise in. That's a very, very important reason of why you need a board member who can add other values that you see your shortfalls and your weaknesses and so forth. So you need other expertise that you may not have, or even though you may have, but you may not have time for to do those things there. So let's go to number 3. Now, as I'm going through here, this is interactive. So if you have questions along the way, put your questions in the chat, and I'll be more than happy to address some of your questions as we're doing this here. If you're just joining us, today we're talking about how to build your business, how to grow your government contracting business or your commercial business by building a board of advisors. So that's what we're talking about here for some of you who just joined us. And if you just joined us, put in your company name and where you're joining us from in the chat. That would be awesome. So characteristic number 3. First is relationship. Second is expertise and knowledge. And third, you want somebody that have money. Money. Money makes the world go round, right? It is the fuel that makes everything else happen. Now, money, you want someone, an advisor that have money on your team, not because you're going to ask them for their money. People with money knows other people with money. That's really why you need someone with money, or they know how to make money. They know how to earn money. They know how to grow money. People with money knows how to handle money better than someone who's trying to make money. So you want someone that just financially wealthy, and or maybe they retire and they have, they have access to money, or they just have money. So let me give you an example. In one of my organization, um, I said, I made a personal goal. I said, I'm starting off this new organization, and this year I want to have relationships with people that have money. I don't know enough millionaires. So I need to, one of my goal is to make friends with people who are millionaires. That was the goal for that year. One new friend who is a millionaire. Just put it on my, New Year goal list there. And sometime later that year, about 2, 3 months into it, someone reached out to me. And I didn't reach out to them, right? Sometimes you put it to the universe, right? And the universe reciprocates, right? But if you don't set a goal, you're hit 100% of the time, you hit zero, right? You hit nothing. If you set a goal, you have a chance of reaching your goal. So that was my goal for that year. Well, someone reached out to me, and it turns out that I didn't know they were a millionaire, but they reached out to me. We built a relationship, um, and I was able to add value to what some of the interests that they have. And then they asked me this question. They say, "How can I help you?" And I said, "Well, I need this, I need that." They said, "Well, you know what? I can do that to help you." And then in that journey, we become friends. They're actually an advisor to one of my organization. They actually have funded some of the work that we've done. So if you build a relationship with somebody, and I'm not talking about chasing after money, I'm talking about building genuine relationship with people and creating value and creating trust and so forth, right? I'm not talking about just chasing after money, because that is a thinly veil. If you're just only after their money, that is a thin veil, and they will see right through that. I'm talking about building genuine friendship with people and asking them to be on your board of advisor, and that can lead to access to money for you. So, so maybe now I'm not talking about a banker, right? Because a banker, like someone who is a VP of a bank, they themselves may not necessarily be a millionaire. I'm talking about somebody who either built a business, someone who invested wisely and now they're a multimillionaire, or someone who was born into money. And if they're born into money, they know how to handle money better than someone who was not born into money. So there's a lot of different people with money out there. But this is one of the key factors of what you want to look for in a board of advisor. Again, you're not asking them for their money, and we'll talk about how to leverage these people in a little bit here. Now, the next criteria in terms of what you're looking for in a board of advisor is you want to look for someone that has time. A few of you are solopreneurs, right? You are building your business with your own time, and you don't have enough time. Or some of you might be in a small organization with 2 or 3 people, and you always need more time. So if you find someone that have time, they can be a effective person as a person on your board of advisor, because they can volunteer their time to help you with different things. And so someone with time is actually very important also. Now, in a perfect world, if you have someone that have relationship, that have expertise, money, and time, that's like the most incredible person you can find out there, right? But Sometimes you will find somebody that maybe have relationships and have money. Sometimes you might have someone that have relationships and they have time. Sometimes you might just find someone that have expertise, but they have very little time. So the more of, in terms of one person having all four characteristics, the better. But if you just find different people that have different components of this here, or they just have one of these four things in here that's valuable to you as a company as well. So that's what you want to look for in somebody. Now, someone with time, let me give you the ideal person in terms of somebody that have time. They may be a corporate executive. They work for 20 years and now they're semi-retired, or they may have worked for 30 years, they're semi-retired, or they're in a season of life where they feel like, I've done 20 years of my life this year, and right now I need to do something different. And they have a lot of time, or they might be, in a situation where they've been laid off, and they like, my spouse work. I want to do something that's meaningful for myself now. I don't want to chase after money anymore. I want to do something meaningful. So they have time, or they may be working part time, and or it could be a stay home husband or stay home mom who have time and they want to do something, or they might be homeschooling their kids and they have time to do a few other things. Now, homeschooling is hard, so they may not always have a lot of time, but some of them do have time. And so, if you find someone that have time, regardless of the situation, they can be on your board of advisor and they can volunteer 5 hours, 10 hours a week to help you with your company. And we'll talk about compensation. If you want to compensate them, we'll talk about that in a little bit. Your board of advisor, how we're going to structure this here is you're not paying them. You're volunteering their expertise to give to you in this way here. So those are the four characteristics. So let's talk about how do you go and approach these people, and how do you find these people, and why would they sit on your board, right? Because you're a small business. They want to sit on a big nonprofit, or they want to sit on a publicly traded company, or they want to sit on a technology startup that just got $10 million funding. No, there's a lot of people out there that just want to give back. Successful people generally want to give back to other people, because that's really what you're looking for, right? Successful people with these four characteristics, and that's what you want to find. And so this is how you find these people here. You have to do things that's a little bit different from how you currently do things. You have to hang out in different places. So if you want to be a drunk, you hang out at the bar, right? If you want to be a professional athlete, you hang out at the gym. You hang out on the basketball court. You hang out on the football field. If you want to learn Governese, you come and hang out with me, right? So you can speak Governese. You want to win contracts, you want to understand the government market, you hang out with other people that is in that industry. So if you want to know somebody and build relationships so that they can become potentially your board of advisor, where do you go hang out with some of these different things here? So for example, somebody with money, your CPAs, build a strong relationship with your CPA. Your CPA knows a lot of people that have access to money or that have money. That's one person. And so when your CPA is having a home party and she's inviting her network of people to come to, you go to that event. Or you join a country club, or you join a club. Like there's the Buckhead Club, there's the Georgian Club, there's lots of different clubs out there. And it costs, a few $1,000s a year to be part of the club. But these clubs, high net worth people hang out at these clubs. And so if you're having your meeting there, if you're going to these networking events, you're in a circle of people that are well connected, that have lots of relationship. These are people who are professional. These are people that have expertise and knowledge, and these are people that have money. So joining a whether it's a country club or whether it is a business club like the Buckhead Club or the Georgian Club, and there's lots of different clubs out there, and get to know them. Or join a networking group like Business Network International, BNI, or PowerCore. These are some great networking organization where they can help you, give you um, referrals to other opportunities, but they can also become part of your advisory team as well. So lots of different ways of where you go to meet people, but you have to be out there, right? You have to, if you're currently doing what you're currently doing, you're not going to access the people. You have to do things differently than how you're currently doing it. Be where they are, and that's how you make new relationships. So that's how, where and how, right? And sometimes, you have a rich uncle, or you have uh, a a friend from church or something like that, and then you just say, hey, you know what, i'm I'm growing my company, and do you know anybody that's in the government market, or do you know anybody that have expertise in accounting, or whatever you're looking for? Ask for a referral from people you already know. So an introduction from a warm relationship is better than a cold connection, cold email, and so forth. But let's shift gears a little bit. So how do you create a list of people so that you can see who might be a good candidate in terms of these four characteristics, right? You start off with your warm list. So all of you have relationships. So what I want to suggest is just create a list of everybody you know that have these four characteristics. They have relationship, they have expertise, they have money, they have time. Create a list and say, this person has these one or two or three things or four things, and just create the list first. The average person knows about 150 people in terms of your immediate core network itself. Now, some of you are beyond average, right? That's the average. Some of you are beyond average. You have a network of 2, 3, 4, 500 people. In terms of people that are acquaintances, or that you casually know, or that you've interacted with, and I'm not talking about like hot, warm relationship. I'm just talking about people that you casually know. Like maybe you go to church together, you're in the same small house church, or maybe you play golf together, and not the closest of friends, but every once a month you guys go play golf together. It doesn't matter where that network of people, that 150 people you know from. Think through your 150 people and put them onto an Excel sheet and track to see who has one of these four things here that we're talking about. Now, the most immediate list that you can build, take out your cell phone, and in your cell phone, this is the best way of how you build your list. Just start going down alphabetically, and you say, oh yeah, I know this person. Oh yeah, this person have expertise in this. This person have, oh, they just recently retired, they have time. Or this person can connect me to this other person. Just go through your phone. That's the quickest way. And then the second quickest way is your email list, right? In your email, you have all these different emails. And even though you may not remember them, this is how I did it in the past. I just type in John, and a whole bunch of John shows up. And it triggers, oh yeah, yeah, yeah. John, this is, yeah, we went to school together, or we did this here together. And then it triggers a memory of who the people, because you don't always keep 150 people in your mind, right? Because some of you have great memories, but if you're average like some of us, uh, it's not always there. So these are two quick ways: your emails and your phone, and you will instantly build a list of warm or semi-warm relationships, so that you can rewarm and turn those relationships into hot before you ask them to be on your board of advisor. So that's some very specific practical tip. Now let's talk about, how do you ask someone to be on your board of advisor? Now here's what you don't want to do. You haven't seen a high school friend in 15 years. And then you're going through your phone, and you say, oh man, I remember this. We went to high school together. Do not do this here. Don't call up your old friend from high school. Say, man, we haven't talked in 15 years. Hey, let me tell you about my business, and can you be on my board of advisor? Don't do that. That is not genuine, and you're only interested in them adding value to you. You always have to find out or you always have to nurture relationship from the perspective of how do I value or how do we mutually add value to each other. So let's talk about how the ideal way of how you ask someone to be on your board of advisor. Let's talk about warm first, and then we'll talk about cold. So in a warm relationship, but you haven't talked to them in a few months or a few years or 15 years or 20 years, this is how you do it. First of all, you send them an email and you say, "Hey, man, we haven't seen each other in 2 years, and I was just trying to catch up, see how things are going. And I saw on your Facebook that your son recently went to college. Man, I can't believe your son's in college already. Can we catch up at some point? And in fact, I don't even have your phone number anymore. Is it possible? Can you email me your phone number so that we can catch up?" You have to take the first step of re of reconnecting and nurturing that relationship. So that's the first step. Then the next step is either do a Zoom meeting or do a phone conversation, and then just get caught up, right? So if you're on the phone or if you're on a Zoom, and this is somebody that does long distance, right? So you just chit chat. So tell me, let's get caught up, man. Tell me, what have you been doing for the last 15 years, and just you know rebuild that relationship. And then take notes while they're sharing. They say, "Oh, my daughter's doing this, my son, or I've been single all these years." Whatever the situation, take notes, because the notes will come back and help you later. For example, what are you taking note? If they say, "I have 2 kids," make a note. They have 2 kids. If they say, I have no kids, but I have a cat and a dog," make notes, because later you're going to say, "Hey, how's your cat? Whatever, Garfield the cat, whatever the cat's name is. You were telling me that you just took Garfield to the vet. How's that coming?" Right? This is how you nurture a relationship. Or if they have a kid and they're talking about their kids, and you and maybe their kid is just started off playing soccer. Well, maybe you send them a soccer ball. Nurturing relationships. Once you start to nurture that relationship, you follow up an email. "Hey, it was great hanging out with you. It's great talking to you by phone. Just necessarily, absolutely want to stay connected with you." But somewhere in the conversation, when you reconnect with them, you want to talk about, "Yeah, let me tell you what's going on with me. Family is doing well, or I've gone through some health challenges," whatever the situation. But you always wanted to, somewhere in your conversation, you want to talk about your business. You want to say, "Hey, man, I've really, I've started building my company, and we've grown from the commercial market. We're going into the government market. So just, that's kind of what we're doing." And again, you're not pitching anything. You're not asking them anything. You're just getting to know them. By the second or the third conversation, then this is how you ask someone to be on your board of advisor. You can you say, "Hey, John, remember I was sharing with you about my business and how we're, building some good traction, momentum in the government market. I really respect you and what you've done in life, and how you raise your kids, and I'm building my board of advisor, and I was thinking about who might be a good person to be on my board of advisor, and I thought about you. And would you consider maybe being on my board of advisor? I mean, it would be a great honor for me if you would consider that." That's how you ask somebody to be on your board of advisor. Don't cold call them and say, "Hey, can you be on my board advisor?" Right? That's like going to a party and meeting someone for the first time and say, "Hey, will you be my boyfriend, or will you be my girlfriend?" Right? That's weird, right? People run away from you. So that's the proper way of how you do that there. Now let's talk about a cold relationship. Slightly different, right? You have to warm up the relationship before you even do that. So if it's a cold relationship, like someone introduced you to somebody, or you met somebody at a networking event and you have no previous history, then the proper way to do that is You meet someone, you get their information. If it's local, you say, "Hey, you know what? We, just want to follow up with you. We met at this networking event, or we were at the NCMA event, or we were at the Minority Supply Diversity, networking event, or we were at this contract event, or we were at this golf event." And I remember we talked about this here, and I just want to see if we can get together for coffee, and then you start to get to know each other that way. Now, I say coffee because if you were to go and meet with 10 people for dinner, that's expensive, right? Because nowadays with inflation, if you go out with somebody for dinner, you're spending $100 to $200. So coffee is $6. And then if they're buying some donuts, or they're buying some some bakery pastries with it, it might be $10 plus your $10. So you're talking about you can get away with a relationship building session for about $20, $25. If you're doing dinner, it's too expensive, right? So ask them for coffee. Now they will tell you, they will say, "Oh yeah, coffee would be great," or they will say, my mornings are always busy, and can we do lunch, or can we do dinner instead? They will tell you if there's some other ways of how you can connect. Like if people want to meet with me for breakfast or lunch, I usually don't have time for that. I will have time for a Zoom meeting, or I will have time maybe for a late dinner. So engage them. They will tell you in terms of what's appropriate. But ask for coffee. Coffee is affordable for you. This is how you warm up relationship. Then you get to know them, and then you shift to the once you get to know them, you reconnect a few more times by phone or by conversation, and then after that, then you can ask them to be on your board of advisor. So let's continue here. Any questions about anything we covered so far? So let's if you do, again, just put it into the chat. So let's talk about. I got some goodies for you guys at the end. So I'm gonna give you guys a board of advisor sample agreement, and I'm gonna give you a board of advisor charter so that you can form that there. One other thing about asking someone to be on your board of advisor, they're gonna have this question. Most people, not everybody, but most people, they think that a board of advisor is the same thing as the board of directors. And what you're telling them is, you want to clarify that to them. And they say, "Oh yeah, I would love to be on your board of advisor." And then you might want to say, "Yeah, a board of advisor is where you just give me advice. There's no fiduciary responsibility. It's different from a board of directors." And we meet once a year, or maybe twice a year. And then it's like being a mentor to me. If I get stuck along the way, or if I have questions, I'll reach out to you and ask you. I'll email you or give you a phone call and ask you for advice. So you do want to clarify to them that they are a board of advisor, and that there's a difference, not a board of directors. Again, you don't want to build a board of directors right now as a small business. Now, if you're doing a few $1,000,000 a year, yes, you want a board of directors. But as a small business, you don't want a board of directors, just a board of advisors. All right, so shifting gears, let's go into some other key things in terms of uh, how you can leverage them, right? So now that you have your board of advisor in a small business, the ideal number of board of advisors is about three to five. Five is more on the higher side. You don't want to have more than five on your board of advisor as a small business, but three is good, right? Somebody, or maybe four, maybe five, but not too many. And you might want to have maybe one or two meetings a year. And some of the companies I work with, the board of advisor, don't meet at all. It's okay not to meet, but nowadays you can meet through Zoom. You don't have to meet in person and so forth. So once you have your board of advisors, you need to give them a very simple board of advisor agreement. And it just says that they're volunteering their time to give you advice. Very simple. Nothing beyond that there, right? Now, the question is, do you compensate your board of advisors? Most board of directors, you do compensate them in larger organizations. Some board of advisors, In a large organization, they get compensated as well. In a small business, you're not compensating them. Now, if you do want to compensate them, yes, you can compensate them. You compensate them in two main ways. The first way is you give them shares or units, equity in your company. That's one way of how you compensate them. If you don't have money, then you compensate them through equity. That's how you get someone to volunteer time to help you, right? And they have 10, 20 hours a week to help you. And so this is how you get help without having to, you might be, when you're a new startup, you might have less cash and more equity, right? So how do you pay them? If you're paying them money, you just pay them as, as an independent contractor providing you advice. That's one way. And they're not looking for a lot of money. But most of them, they want to help. They don't need to be compensated. If they do ask you, is there compensation? You just kind of let them know, as a small organization, we do plan to have compensation, as we grow. But right now, our board of advisors are just volunteers. And if you're okay with that, I'd love for you to be, an advisor to our team here. So you just tell them, that you do want to do it at a future date, but right now there is no compensation. If it's somebody super skilled and super important, and you feel like, man, this if I have a really deep, close relation with this person, it changes my company. If that's the case, then you can offer them equity. And this is how you structure equity. Typically, an advisor, you pay them equity anywhere from 1% or less than 1% to about 9%, maybe 10% if you're not looking to get certified. But if you're looking to get certified as a women-owned 8A, STVSB Hub Zone, then you don't want to go beyond 9%. Now, normally it's really just 2 to 3% in terms of an advisor. Like big tech startup or technology startups, software startup, and so forth. Usually they pay their advisor half of 1%, but they pay them in terms of shares or equity, right? In fact, let me kind of share with you guys quickly how to structure that a little bit. And let me bring up my notes again here. So let me share my screen with y'all. And this is actually very critical in terms of how you structure, if you are compensating someone, how you structure that. So let's talk about compensation. And so board compensation, usually less than 9%. And the reason why you want to compensate them less than 9% is anyone that have 10% or more that's with the company, then they have to provide all the financials. Because now they're a key shareholder in the company. So if somebody's applying for 8A, women, and so forth, they have to provide all of the financial and lots of paperwork. And that's why you keep it at 9% or less. Now, in terms of profit sharing, right? Profit sharing can be 10%. It could be 20%, right? It could be 30%. It could be whatever you negotiate. So, and sometimes it's 5%, right? So it's whatever you negotiate. If I'm going to volunteer, you ask me to be a board of advisor in your company, and I'm going to use my knowledge, time, expertise, and relationship and connections and time to help you. Yeah, it'd be great to be compensated. And so again, depending on how much time and who they are, it could be anywhere from no percentage. It could be zero, right? It could be 0% in terms of profit sharing. And so all the way up to 30% or whatever you want to pay them. But usually you want to be profit sharing, you want to be somewhere between 0 to 10%, unless they're just exceptional. Now, in terms of equity, the ideal person is really just 3%. This is ideal. 3% because they're not an active executive, or they're not an active person working in your company, and you want to structure about 3%, 1 to 3%. 9% is really rich. Again, 9% means that they have tremendous value. Like one phone call, they can get you serious relationship. They can get you serious contract opportunities, or they can change the whole trajectory of your business if somebody who's going to be offered more than this amount here. But typical 3%. But how do you structure this here? So it's 3% equity, right? 3% equity, and then maybe some profit sharing. So the equity may be 3%, profit sharing could be 10%, or it could be 3% and 3% down here. So it's whatever you negotiate with your board of advisor. If you decide to compensate, again, most of the time, I would say most of the companies that I have coached in terms of board compensation is they zero, right? They ask people, they just want to help. Most successful people, again, want to help. So, and then they can list on their on the resume that they are a board in your company. So it's okay for them to do that. You want to let them know. If you want to, you can list that you are a board of advisor member in our company. Now, should you offer equity, this is how you structure the 3%. Assuming it's 3%, you have to do a vesting schedule. Now, if it's somebody really talented, you do not need to do a vesting schedule, but I would say 99% of the time, you want to do a vesting schedule. Now, if you're familiar with the vesting schedule, this is a vesting schedule just means that, yes, you're going to give them equity, but they're going to earn that over a period of time. So it's earning the equity over a period of time. So how do you compensate somebody in terms of equity? So let me talk about the structure first. So if you are a small business, the ideal number of shares is 100 million shares or units, right? If your LLC is units, you want to have 100 million shares. And when I say shares, I mean the same thing as units. So for simplicity. Now, many of you, when you form your company with 100 shares. And like when you go to Secretary of State and they say, how many shares do you have? You put 100 shares. This is not good. Why? Because optics. So let me give you optics here. If I'm going to bring in somebody into my company and I'm going to give them 3%. So 3% under 100 is 3 shares. Oops. 3% in 100, if your company has 100 shares available or that was created, and you're going to give them 3%, that means you're giving them 3 shares. And they're going to feel like, man, you don't really appreciate me. You only give me 3 shares? What's up, man? Or if you have 100 million shares, right? You're going to say, yeah, if you have time and you're part of my board of advisor, I'm willing to give you 3 million shares, which is the same thing as 3%. Which one looks better? Which one sound better, right? You want to give them 3 million shares, which is 3% of your company. Same thing, if you only have 100 shares, that's only 3 shares that you're giving to somebody. So don't do this here. This is not good. This is great. Now, if you already have your company and you already issue shares for yourself and you own 100% of the shares and you only have 100 shares, you have to restructure the company. And so you have to do what's called if you're LLC, many of you are, you have to do what's called a member resolution. And in a member resolution, you just say, hey, the managing directors or the managing members of the company, we met on this day here, and it just you just create a document that's stating to something what I'm saying here. We met on this day here. We this topic was brought to on the table. We discussed this here, we voted on this here, and we decided to increase from 100 shares or 100 units to 100 million units. And that's how you restructure. You do a member resolution in a LLC. I mean, in a S corp or a C corp, you have corporate resolution. And then your corporate res. Now, I do have examples of that. If you send us an email and you put in their sample corporate resolution, or if you're a LLC sample member resolution, send us an email. My show production manager, she'll put our email in the chat area, and I'll be more than happy to send you a sample corporate resolution. Or if you stay to the end, I might just find it and then give it to you guys in real time. So either way, stay to the end. If I remember, I'll do it at the end. So you want to change it. Some of you have 1,000 shares. Some of you, have 10,000 shares. But 100 million share is the ideal number. Now, if you're set up in Delaware, then you do not want to go over 100 million shares, because if you go beyond that, there's some other tax liability and tax concerns that you need to have. Now, just for purposes, I'm not an attorney. I'm not a CPA. What I'm sharing here is for educational purposes only. That's my little disclaimer. And so I'm not giving professional advice here. This is a podcast. I'm sharing, ideas, and I'm sharing educational information for you guys. If you really want to structure this here, seek professional help from an attorney or CPA. Okay, let's continue here. Now, how do you issue these shares, right? Let's assume you restructure your company and you have you create 100 million shares, and you want to give 3 million shares to somebody. There's two ways to do that there. So the first way is this here. If you issue 100 million shares to yourself, then you would have to have a corporate resolution to structure 3 more million shares. So if you already have 100 million shares, then you have to have a corporate resolution that you're going to that the board or the managing director approve the issuance of 3 more million shares. So you're going to issue 3 more million shares, and then you're going to this equity here will be given to your board member, right? Now, if you're bringing in 4 people and you're going to give them each 3 million, then you have to, let's assume you have a total of 3 board members, and you're going to give them each 3 million shares. Then you have to issue a total of 9 million shares so that you can give out 3 million each. So in this situation, here's what happens. Now you have a total of 109 million shares. So this here goes to you, right? You own these shares here. And then the 9 million goes to 3 of your advisors. And then now there's a total of 109 million shares. So now you used to own 100% when it was just you. Now there's 109 million. So your percentage used to be 100%. Now your percentage changes. So let's talk about how has that changed. So let's look at the calculator here. So the way you structure this is this here. So you take 100. 1 was 0. Divide that by 109. So now you own 91.7% of the company. When you give out 9 million and you own 100 million, then you instead of 100% of shares that you own, you own 91.7% of shares. So that's how you determine what percentage of ownership you have in terms of shares in your company. So let's talk about vesting schedule, and then we're going to wrap it up here in a second. And I'm going to share some goodies with you. So vesting schedule. In your vesting schedule, you want to create what's called a 12-month cliff, and then a 24-month, and then a 36 month, and maybe a 48-month. Now, sometimes you do for 3 years, sometimes you do for 4 years. It depends on the person, right? And if it's somebody you've known for a while and you know that they're going to be good, then you do it just a 3 years, 36 months. If it's somebody that you really, just getting to know, then you might want to do 4 years, 48 months. But here's what this means by these months here. There's a few ways to do this. I'm just going to show you one way. So here's what 12-month cliff means. They have to be with you for 12 months. At the end of 12 months, if you're giving them 3%, they earn 1%. So they earn, or more so, the word is vested, right? Vested 1%. So now, yes, you've allocated 3% to them, but at the end of 12 months, they earn 1% of the 3%. And let's assume we're just doing 3 years here. We're not doing 4 years. At the end of 24 months, then now they're vested another 1% for a total of 2%. And same thing for, the next 36 months, right? If they're with you for 3 years, so at this point here, they're vested another percent, and now they have a total of 3% of equity in the company. If for any reason they leave before 12 months, they leave with 0. That's why you have a vesting schedule. You protect yourself. Or maybe they don't leave, but you're not happy with their work, right? You're not happy because they say they're going to be an advisor to your company, but they don't show up to meeting. They don't respond to your emails. 3 months into it, you're going to say, hey, you know what? Looks like you don't have bandwidth or you don't have time to be an advisor to an organization. So I just want to mutually have a conversation so that we can just part ways amicably. And that's fine. And then, or sometime if it's the working relationship has become soured and it's a little hostile now, then you can do it very formal. You can do a formal saying, per our agreement, in terms of providing advice, there's been minimal response, or you have been non-responsive in this relationship as an advisor, so we are formally terminating your advisory agreement. Again, for most of you, you don't need to compensate your advisor, so you never have to worry about this. But someone who's really good, you do want to set this up. And so if you let them go before 12 months, they walk over with 0. Or if they leave on their own accord, they leave with 0. Same thing for 24 months. Now, there are some people that just have a after 12 months, after that is prorated every single month. And you can structure it that way as well. But this is, a little bit more complex. Should you decide to do that, I'll be more than happy to meet with you and give you some ideas on. And I do have templates in terms of, verbiage and how to do this. Again, educational purpose only. I'm not an attorney, so I can give you my perspective of how I've structured my deals in the past, but you will have to, if you use the samples I give you, that's at your own risk. But if you want to get an attorney to use it, that would be my recommendation. But prepare to pay about $2,000 to $3,000 for an agreement, a vesting agreement from the attorney, because that's how they get paid. All right, so your vesting schedule. And again, there's more layers to this here, but this gives you a little bit of high perspective of how to compensate your board of advisor. So with that, I'm going to share with you uh, an example of a board of advisor agreement, and I have multiple variation. This is a little bit more for a technology startup, but you can tweak it as you need to, right? So here you put in how many shares you're going to give them, and then um, you go through this here, and then you may want to add a vesting schedule to this here. I don't believe this address a vesting schedule in this sample agreement, but if you need a vesting, so this is an example. This will be put into the chat. My show producer, she's going to put this into the chat. So if you want a copy of this here, now when you come in here, don't ask for permission to join my Dropbox account. Just download the document, right? Right here it says download, just download the document. That way you don't need permission. You just download the document. You can use it as you see fit. Now, the second document I want to share with you is this here. This is, for some successful people, they want you to have a formal advisory board, right? So you can actually do this is a advisory board charter. And this is an example where you actually form a board itself. And so this is how, so this is that example there. So use this here. You can talk about how often you meet and so forth in here. So if you want to formally build a board advisor, you want to charter the board first, and then you will invite someone and then have an agreement with them to be on your board of advisory. So with that, any questions from anybody? I don't see I see lots of you in the chat, but I don't see any questions in there. So while I've got a few minutes for questions. So while we're doing that, I'm going to pull I shared that I was going to give you an agreement for, what was I going to give you guys? Oh, a corporate resolution. So I'm gonna pull my corporate resolution and share that with you guys, because this is a very powerful tool. So let me pull that up, and if you guys have any questions, put in the chat while we're doing that there. So all right, so this is a corporate resolution to increase shares. This is a member resolution to do a business name change. Name change, corporate resolution to transfer shares, increase shares here. Okay. So I'm going to, let me pull it up, make sure this is the right one. Okay, so this is a actual, let me redact this here first, and then I will, you'll have to email me to get this here, because I don't see my template in here. And some of these here are actual documents that I've worked with other companies in the past, and I don't necessarily want their name floating around out there. So I will create a sample resolution to increase shares, or to do a name change. You can use it for any purposes like that there. And so let me kind of give you, so this is a company I'm coaching, and he's a close friend of mine. So let me share with you how we structure it, right? So the name of the company, be it resolved. So in this situation, he chose 10 million shares instead of 100 million. And so originally he has 2 shares. So So his company didn't have 100 shares. He only had 2 shares. And so we restructured to where he has, and this is an internal document. No one sees this document. Now, as you grow and you get bigger, this document becomes very important. But as a small business, this is an internal document that you keep within your organization. And then you just put, the date and this here. So very simple in this regard, but I will redact, take out all the names and contact information like that, and then you guys can use it as a sample. So just send me an email if you want a copy of this at info@govcontractors.org, and I'd be more than happy to give you guys an sample to help you with your business. All right, so at this point here, really enjoy hanging out with all of you. I just don't see any questions in here, so it's great having you. Next week, we will, same time, 11:30 Eastern time, we will do another Win Government Contract podcast. And we will be talking about, ways to grow your company, strategies to, get government contracts and so forth. So Win Government Contract podcast signing off. See you guys next week. And remember, you are one contract away from your goals, from your dream house, from your next car, from any dream that you have. You're one contract away. Thanks for joining me. Have a good one. See you next episode. Take care.